If you've got a Bosch range with one of these rotary dials right here that controls your oven temperature, as well as all the selector settings for the electronic control panel, and it just doesn't work right, sometimes it skips, sometimes it doesn't register you turn the knob, then this video is for you. The control board that this knob's attached to is discontinued and almost impossible to get. If you can get it, it costs between $200 and $300, which obviously doesn't make sense for a 20-year-old range. But happy to announce you can replace the encoder switch that this is attached to for just a few dollars. The first thing you're going to want to do is get this front control panel removed from the range. So you'll shut off the power, either unplug it from the wall or shut off the breaker if that's inconvenient to get to. And you have 7 screws to undo. So under here, you leave these guys at the end alone. You just do the 3 screws attached to this heat shield. Take those out and then undo these 2 right here. And then this will pull straight out. Of course, you got to do the 2 on the other side. Now these are Torx 20 screws there and here. And you're also going to need a Phillips screwdriver for the control board. Before you actually remove the screws, I would suggest pulling this knob off first. Now this shroud doesn't move, so leave it. This black piece, grab the black piece and pull straight out. You might have to rock it back and forth and give it a little wiggle, but fundamentally it's just push on, so pull off. Once you get this piece off, then you can undo a nut inside. Look further in the video to see the detail of how this went together, and you should be able to figure out how to take it apart. But this silver piece then has to come off. Once you do that, then you can take the screws out. Voila. Now, I've already removed the knob, and I kind of destroyed the old switch trying to get it out so I could get a replacement part. So I'm going to desolder this thing fully and then replace the switch. There's 3 connectors on the back pointing straight into the board, and then you have 2 mounting pins that solder through here. So you can see those are already removed. So mounting pins, then the 3 connectors right here off the switch. So here's our new replacement switch. This is actually an encoder. And so you can see you've got the 3 pins there. I'll have to make them point straight down, but no big deal. Here's the 2 mounting pins. It's keyed here so that that knob can attach to it. Now when you purchase these things, the shaft length matters. So here's the original, albeit rather broken one from me taking it out. So you got to make sure the shaft length's the same, the indents are the same. Anyway, it's not that complicated. I'll put the information in the video notes if you need to order your own. So to do this, I would strongly suggest you get yourself a decent soldering iron. This is, I wouldn't even say it's decent. This is a Princess Auto Special, but it gets hot, does the job. And also a Princess Auto Special, you'll want a solder sucker. So this guy works by push the plunger down, spring pressure holds it, then you're gonna heat up whatever you wanna pull the pin out of with your soldering iron, and then you push the button and it sucks the solder out, and then you can push it back out again by depressing this plunger again. So really simple tool, but pretty much indispensable for this. And I always recommend buying decent solder. So here's an example of decent solder, 6337, would that be tin to lead, I believe. So you can watch me do this, and once we get the new switch on, we'll put it back together. So here we have the completed encoder. You can see the 3 pins there and the 2 mounting pins. It would be important to make sure that it's sitting flush to the circuit board. And there you can see the 3 connected 3 electrical connections followed by the 2 mounting pins. I like to keep my soldering iron reasonably hot because you want to make sure this solder flows from this side into the hole, and but also don't cook the encoder at the same time. Heat management's key. So when you saw me soldering, I worked my way around these mounting pin holes because they're reasonably large, which they need to be, but I just didn't want a whole bunch of solder falling right through the board and gumming up the back of the encoder. Anyway, it's done. I'm happy with it. If you're doing this work on your own, I'd strongly suggest just make sure you double check your work and make sure you didn't bridge any pins. Right here, electrically, this one and the one behind it are connected. You can see a trace in there, so you shouldn't have any problems there. This pin, I don't believe touches that, so you know, make sure you don't accidentally glob solder across there. But beyond that, pretty straightforward. Now we just put it all back together. Okay, so once you get it all back together, this is what you'll see. We've got this piece of metal right here. This is part of the chassis of the Range, so it's quite strong. And that little tab sticking out right there, that's the end of the encoder. So it actually locks in, so it resists twisting and potentially wrecking something. So that's important that that's in there, but we also need to attach this threaded part of the encoder to that chassis tab there. So this is the part that nobody tells you online. This piece does not pull off. So that acts like a giant washer. And that goes right there. And then you take, actually I've got this backwards. The washer came on first. Then you put this guy on. Then you thread this nut on there, and you're gonna want that to be pretty secure. Now, I can't do this with one hand, so I'm gonna put the camera down, use my trusty needle nose pliers once I get this nut started, and thread it on there, and then the knob just pushes on. And so, of course, to remove, you just pull that guy out. So we've got the shroud back on and push the knob on. It's making that satisfying clicking feeling. Now, when I was troubleshooting my Range, the problem was I'd hit cooking mode and I turned this dial and I couldn't select bake or anything else. I'd have to push and shake the handle to make it work, but now I can hit bake, and now I can actually dial up and down my temperature. This was a painful struggle. Sometimes it would go backwards. You'd have to push and pull and shake it, and after about 5 minutes of fighting, you'd be able to dial the temperature into what you wanted before you hit start. So clearly this is the fix. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps somebody. Feel free to contact me if you need help replacing that encoder. I'd be happy to help you out. Please like this video, and if people find this useful, perhaps I'll take some more videos of the various household projects I end up working on. Thanks.